Which antagonist villain can you relate to most? Mr. Freeze. Dr. Victor Fries, pronounced Freeze, was an accomplished cryogenicist whose beloved wife Nora was stricken with a fatal degenerative disease. Fries placed her in suspended animation while searching for a way to cure her, but GothCorp CEO Ferris Boyle stopped funding the research and Nora's life and pulled the plug, triggering an accident that transformed Fry's body into a cold-blooded form that must always be kept at sub-zero temperatures. At normal room temperature he will die, wielding a number of freezing weapons. He wears a protective cryogenic suit in his quest to somehow restore his wife to full health and avenge her fate, which he partly holds Batman responsible for. If I remember correctly, the animated series was the first instance where Mr. Freeze was given this backstory, made him a much deeper character. Bowler Hat Guy Goob from Meet the Robinsons was an orphan that never got adopted because of the resentment he held towards his only friend, who suddenly disappeared one day in childhood. Just enormous sympathy for him. Squidward. I know that he isn't really considered a villain, but usually the show tries to make it look like SpongeBob is all great and happy and Squidward is just an unreasonable killjoy. Really though, can you blame him? Every time that Squidward tries to be even slightly okay with something that SpongeBob is doing, it nearly destroys him. There was the one episode where SpongeBob and Patrick try to force him to go jellyfishing and nearly get him killed and then continue to force him to try even after sustaining serious injuries. Squidward should get a restraining order. Firmly grasp it. But actually that's so true. He doesn't really bother anyone without being provoked, he just wants to go about his day and there's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately for him, the two psychopaths he lives next to frequently break into his house and find new ways to ruin his day every other episode. Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2. In the movie, he made a mistake that resulted in his wife's death, as well as his mutation. The movie also made it seem like the robotic arms were making him act so deviant. The man lost the person he loved most by his own hand, to a degree, and I definitely understand how that can make someone act irrational. I too would probably go crazy and just start wrecking crap, trying to go out in a blaze of glory. In the book or the movie, the tentacles talk to him in some weird way even though he controls them. Ice King. He doesn't understand why or even that his powers are making him crazy. All he wants is to be loved and accepted. Gus Fring. I think people considered him an antagonist. Honestly, I just saw him as a very determined businessman. Also, the fact that he sought revenge against the cartel for his friends shows that he was loyal. I'd do anything for my friends. I think Gus was at least as good of a man as Walt, if not better. They have some similar motives, but by the end of the series Walt had really become a douchebag. Probably Draco Malfoy. He becomes so conflicted about what's right and wrong, mostly because of his parents' influence. I've definitely felt that. If you are talking about post-HP5 Malfoy, I agree with you. Pre-HP5 however, he is just a giant jerk to Harry for no obvious reason. Cypher, from The Matrix. He is the only one to realize it doesn't matter a dang whether you're in the Matrix or outside. Reality is relative anyway, so he chooses to screw the other guys and gets awarded a comfortable life in the Matrix in return. But Cypher has no way of holding Agent Smith to his deal. It's a horrible negotiation. Magneto. I hate to say but most of the time I'm rooting for him. If Anne Frank was given the power of a god and people wanted to lock her up for it, would you tell her to chill out, stop overreacting? Totally. I'm so sick of Charles Xavier and his comfortable moralizing. It was the worst in First Class. It's easy to believe in these moral absolutes when you grew up in a castle, and your mutation helps you fit into society, rather than the other way around. Syndrome from The Incredibles. It's totally understandable to me that he would be upset at being overlooked simply because he wasn't born with powers. You can try as hard as you want, but sometimes you just won't have the talent. Abstergo Templars from Assassin's Creed. Don't get me wrong. I know the assassins are right, and totally root for them, but I get how easy it is to fall into the trappings of seeing how messed up humanity can be, and thinking you have the best answers for them, and thinking that the means ends justify the means, so whatever I do will be okay. Raul Silver, the bad spy from Skyfall. I mean, he's all fricked in the head because he got burned as a spy. He got hung out to dry by the people he was defending. I can kinda understand the desire for revenge there. Then again, running around shooting people and then getting all touchy if it's your life that is sacrificed for the greater good. Zuko. He eventually stops being a villain, but the arc of him trying to reconcile what he's been told all his life with what he sees is amazing. He has the most character development of anyone in that show. Everyone else mostly does what is expected of them, but Zuko has to entirely remake himself to do what he eventually realizes is right. General Zod. He was just doing his freaking job trying to save the entire race because that council wasn't doing crap. Sure, his methods were brutal and excessive, but he tried to go through legitimate means first and was left with no other option at his disposal to try to save Krypton. Except for the whole wipe out humanity to terraform the planet for his race. Why not get the material and find another planet? Or go terraform Mars? You still get the yellow sun deal and don't commit genocide. He was the embodiment of the ends justify the means. Wile E. Coyote. Cause he tries so hard and never stops trying. And the Roadrunner really shows no empathy and is just a greedy birdseed eating jerk. Also the ones where it's him versus the sheepdog. I can't help but relate to his extensive and elaborate yet impractical planning. That was actually Wile E's cousin Ralph the Wolf who goes up against Sam the sheepdog. His nose is red instead of black. Amon from the Legend of Korra. He saw that non-benders are treated as second-class citizens. Tried to equalize things, but he clearly already had a moral event horizon and went too far. We don't always realize when we're going too far in goal of improving society. I haven't seen that kind of fear in an Avatar since Song vs the Phoenix King. Benders too easily forget how reckless use of their power can ruin a man's cabbages. Lex Luthor. I haven't read the comics, but I'm talking about Smallville. The man just wanted to escape his father's shadow and become great so the world would remember him. Sure, he went too far sometimes, but he never experienced the love of a father. His mother died long before and most women only gave a crap about his status money. Under circumstances like that, I'm sure most people would want to prove to the world and themselves that there's a reason they exist. The bear that tried to eat the two dogs and the cat in Homeward Bound. It was cold and the dude was hungry and trying to survive. If I had just left work or woke up from a few months hibernation, I would do the same thing. The porcupine was the true villain. Sylar from Heroes. He's a victim of the 90s generation. We were told that we could become great like the baby boomers before us. But instead we are only disappointed in the monotony of our existence. When everyone goes to college, no one is special. In the same way that Sylar was told by his mother he'd be special, and then is driven insane by his mother equally being disappointed in him, and him being forced down the path of watchmaking. Sure, I don't go about stealing people's brains to get superpowers, but I want to be special and recognized as well, so I completely relate to him. He didn't even steal brains, he just stared at them until he understood how to use that power. He is terrifying. The Winklevoss twins in The Social Network. They're the Steve Jobs of Facebook. Sure, they never wrote any code, but the idea was theirs and they hired Mark Zuckerberg to write it for them. How is that any different from Jobs having Wozniak build the Apple II? Vegeta. He is more of an anti-hero than a villain, but I loved his drive to try to best Goku no matter what. Even though he knew all the time that he could never be better than him, he always tried to become better than him. Skull Kid from Majora's Mask. He was just lonely and wanted to be cool. How was he supposed to know that the mask was cursed? The real villain in that game is Majora's Mask, not the Skull Kid. Scar. Deep down inside everyone craves a little bit of power. I also like how he didn't give a long-winded explanation before he killed Mufasa. He just got down to business and murdered him. Yeah, think about it. All his life he was in Mufasa's shadow, never noticed. He's a true villain too. He gets his crap done. Franklin. Frank Grimy Grimes. His idiot co-worker had a mansion and ate lobster with his beautiful wife, but didn't deserve it. At first it was jealousy, but then it was thrown in his face. FG, you went to space HS. Yeah, You've never been FG, look at me. I'm Homer Simpson HS. P. You wish. He couldn't understand how the ogre was so well liked and so blessed when he, himself, had always played by the rules and had very little to show for it. The fact that no one understood his point of view drove him over the edge. He always worked the hardest and somehow managed to draw the short straw every time. Wreck-It Ralph. Which is kinda the whole point of the movie, so I'm kinda cheating here, but still, I'm bad, and that's good. I'll never be good, and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. Chills every time. When he says this while falling to save that video game, I cry every time. Severus Snape. I'm not going to elaborate, because it is my favorite part of Harry Potter and I don't want to ruin anything for the 5 people out there who haven't read the books or seen the movies. Also, I completely agree with the person who said Magneto. Jarl Borg from Vikings. Spoilers. The guy goes to war with King Horik over a claim he held over land which King Horik held. It is not known who was in the right over this claim. He loses the war. King Horik and Ragnar proposes a deal with Jarl Borg where they will all raid Wessex together while splitting the loot equally amongst them, along with trade agreements and land rights with King Horik. On the night before the raid, King Horik does not want to raid with Jarl Borg and tells Ragnar to tell Jarl Borg to pee off, which basically breaks the treaty Jarl Borg had with King Horik. So what does he do? He does what any man would do and gets revenge by attacking and taking over Ragnar's village. Jarl Borg then gets killed by Ragnar in a blood eagle sacrifice when Ragnar returns from raiding and takes back his village. TL. DR. King Horik's a dong. While you make a good point about Jarl Borg, he shouldn't have attacked Ragnar's village and tried to kill his family. Ragnar was just the messenger and Borg knew that. If he wanted to take revenge, he should have attacked Horik's lands. That guy truly is a dong. Although Ragnar may have overreacted a tiny bit with his blood eagle. The Borg. All they're trying to do is take the best of us and add it to the best of them. They're arguing for true multiculturalism. In return, they'll give us everything they've got to offer. Efficiency, camaraderie, free from disease, poverty, and the petty squabbles of mankind. In other words, they promise utopia. What are we fighting for? Sign me up. Resistance is futile. The cost is, they offer stagnation. They never invent. They never create. They simply steal and adapt. They stifle and curtail all advancement in science, culture and art wherever they go, and when they have depleted all new resources they simply stop advancing and wait. Doctor Doom, because he has to make the hard decisions that others won't. There was this one comic that these higher beings granted Doctor Doom's wish. Doctor Doom said something about 1000s of possible futures in which mankind is doomed to die out, and the only future which mankind survives is the one he rules over. Organization 13 from Kingdom Hearts 2. Nobodies literally cannot feel emotions, and if you've ever been lost in your life you know what it's like to feel empty. I never considered them bad, just lost. The Joker. Yes, he's unhinged. Yes, he's a completely abusive lover, emotionally and physically. Yes, he's responsible for the murder, death, assisted suicides of possibly hundreds of people. But depending on which origin story you choose. 1. He's the result of one bad day, which can turn a man into a psychopath. After all, that's what he tries to prove to Gordon when he paralyzes Barbara. 2. He is the result of revenge and vengeance in one. His entire life is now devoted to being the perfect foil to Batman. Have you read the new 52? 3. He chooses his path and there is no personal recrimination. He accepts that life is neither completely good nor bad and he doesn't beat himself up over it. Which superhero can say the same? 4. Even though there are times when he is completely selfish, he does have a care for Batman. Think of it like a screwed up relationship. He believes that he makes Batman a better hero, and Batman shows him how to be a better villain, which is why he kills off a couple other villains aiming to kill Bats. 5. He has distilled chaos. While most people don't let their crazy flap in the wind, he never pretends to be something he isn't, because faced with the inescapable fact that human existence is mad, random, and pointless, 1 in 8 of them crack up and go stark slavering buggo. Who can blame them? In a world as psychotic as this, any other response would be crazy. TL. Doctor, I love the Joker. He's not the result of one bad day. He is the result of Batman though. He became a criminal called the Red Hood to steal money for retirement, but one day a heist was stopped by Batman at Ace Chemicals, but Red Hood fell into the chemicals, thus becoming Joker. Gladys. She's just trying to do her job and doesn't understand what all the fuss is about. At first things were great. They did some science, and then all of a sudden the people she worked with decided she was homicidal and irreversibly corrupted. So she reasoned with them. Well, more or less. She got her point across. That's what matters. Then there was no one left to perform the tests on. So she kept waking people up and giving them the pleasure of taking part in the joy of science, and then taking part in the joy of baking. Eventually she found this crazy person who wasn't happy about science and definitely wasn't interested in cake. She tried to reason with this crazy person, but she killed her. Then a lot of bad things happened to the outside world, but nothing whatsoever happened inside of Gladys's facility. Eventually that same crazy person showed up again after a long time and resurrected her, only to put her into a potato. It was really uncalled for. Then absolutely nothing whatsoever happened for an even longer time. So Gladys kept herself busy sharing the joys of science with two robots and seeing how much she can make them hate each other. Maybe something will happen again. The Trix Rabbit. Guy just wants some dang cereal. Why do the kids have to be so selfish? They have a whole box. Just give him a little. Itachi. He killed his family, but later on it was explained and he became a hero, along with Pain Nagato in Naruto. Naruto has great character development. Cersei Lannister. She's done some pretty vile things, but I still empathize with her. She lives in this incredibly over-the-top misogynistic world where she was basically sold to a man who didn't love her and repeatedly abused her. She's the eldest child of Tywin and really the only one in a position to actually rule Casterly Rock, since Jaime is in the King's Good and Tyrion has other problems, but he would never entertain the idea of letting her inherit. Basically she's told her entire life that her only worth is between her legs. No wonder she does some of the crazy things she does. She uses the tools at her disposal to try to gain herself some dignity. She's not very good at it, but I feel sorry for her. Vegeta. From DBZ. Have you ever been constantly beaten at something by someone else who exerts apparently no effort? Have you ever been frustrated as to why you can't improve as much as they can? Though Vegeta is the alien, ironically he's more human than Goku is. As much as he trains and trains, he just gets outdone by people with more natural talent, like Goku and Gohan. I think that's why we love him so much, despite the fact that he doesn't have many triumphant moments as a good guy. Andrew from Chronicle. He felt powerless his whole life and now he is stronger than everybody on Earth. What do you expect? Shane from The Walking Dead. It would kinda suck to have your life finally start to fall into place, to be the hero, to be loved by many, and then the new guy comes in and takes it all away. No wonder he went bat crap crazy. Petter Beelish. Littlefinger. He's a doomed romantic who turned to the dark side after the only woman he ever loved left him for a thug. He's determined to burn the monarchy down from the inside out. Seriously, he's like my inner child. I personally think he only wears the mask of a romantic. I'm sure he's just a psychopath and a narcissist whose pee he can't get what he wants, so he just decided to destroy everything for everyone. As a teacher, I'm on Vice Principal Vernon's side in the Breakfast Club. John Bender is a loudmouth douchebag who pops off because he knows adults can't lay a hand on him. When Vernon calls him on his crap and challenges him to fight, I'd love to be able to do that with some of my mouthier buttholes. Toy Story Sid. What boy who has access to tools doesn't do that to the toys? Take them apart, combine them, try to send toys to space, etc. I was just like that and I wasn't a bad kid. Vegeta. If I experienced the childhood he did, I would be just as heartless and unmerciful to anyone that stood against me. Plus I would do anything I could to be the most powerful being alive. Salieri from Amadeus. I, too, have lofty aspirations and can easily identify the gifted individuals around me even when I come up short myself. Mozart is portrayed in a very unfavorable light and I can understand how Salieri would want to destroy him. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.